Welcome, everybody, to Embrace the Weight, Strength in Numbers. Here to my right, we have Nom Thomas, our first guest on the podcast. We're going to be talking to Nom tonight. I know Justin has some questions for Nom. He's been biting the bit to talk and ask these questions. We're here at Body and Soul, Nom's home gym. I say we just dive into it. Nom, you want to say hi?
What's up? Lay it on me.
All right, Justin. The moment you've been waiting for.
One of the things I was wanting to talk about was so they always talk about who is the strongest bodybuilder of all time. It always goes back to Ronnie Coleman for his 800-pound squat, 800-pound deadlift.
That was epic, especially for that time period too.
Is that numbers that you care about? That is in the back of your head when you because you already have him beat at squat. You just have to beat him at deadlift now. So is that something that you're thinking about, to have to have the physique you have and beat Ronnie Coleman's powerlifting numbers? Or
so you're asking am I consciously trying to beat the numbers that Ronnie Coleman put up aside from squat?
Is that a goal that you think that you have in your head that'd be cool, or is that something you've even thought about?
Never even thought about it. Not at all. Not at all.
Because I just know when anyone ever talks about who, like, the strongest bodybuilders of all time, they always put Ronnie Coleman on top of that list.
It pops up often, and especially the correlation, like back in, I don't know, like the late 90s. But aside from that, I don't even know what kind of numbers he was putting up in other lifts.
So how do you think sort of coming from powerlifting style into bodybuilding affects your physique versus other styles? Like, I know, for example, if you look at like Jay Cutler, he's never pretty much done more than 2 plates on bench because that's not his style. So how do you think, do you think that has a big change on your physique when you're doing these much higher weights versus much higher volume, or what is your take on that?
Oh, for sure. And that's something that I feel like I'm trying to find the correlation between strength and development. And a lot of that will come down to the detail in our execution, but also, that's when nutrients come into play, when supplements come into play, and when you align all those variables based off of what it is your goal is. But when you're training in strength sports, like we're executing these movements in such a proper manner, there is carryover benefit when your body has no choice but to respond to that. But then there's the difference between the people who are just sold, like you said, Jay Cutler, where he never bench pressed over 225. So the term for that is hypertrophy, whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
When you're focused on just like the isolated development of a muscle. And that itself right there doesn't always correlate to strength. If you take the right supplements, if you eat a surplus of food, you can curl a 30-pound dumbbell, for minutes on end, and you can grow that muscle. And that's the difference between when you align the variables of supplementation, nutrition, and high volume training compared to the effects of just pure strength training. That makes sense?
I mean, I think
sounds good.
Yeah, it sounds amazing.
What made you want to take the strength route? Because I know a lot of people who are into bodybuilding, they never even care what a 1 rep max of any of their lifts are. And then, like, some people like Larry Wills are, really into just getting the numbers up as well. So what got you into the just wanting to be as strong and as good as you could possibly be?
Sure. I think the people that you're referencing, the ones who are not necessarily concerned, those are the ones who are worried that you will get hurt. But at the same time, if you take the proper approach, if you're hydrated, you're nourished, you thoroughly warm up, theoretically, there's no reason that one person should ever get. It's when we're not aligning those variables, or we're ego lifting, or we're just not taking the amount of time to warm up. Didn't answer the question. What was the question? Strength sports.
What got you into it? Yeah.
So I mentioned earlier before we started that the initial goal was to be a professional bodybuilder. That was always the dream. And one thing that I lacked on the national scale was the thickness and the development in my back. And I knew deadlifts at this point were something that I'd never done, but the national level judges told me that I needed to bring up my back. So I knew that if I emphasized the deadlift, indirectly, the results that I wanted would bring up the thickness of my back. So I knew that deadlifting was one of the events in powerlifting, and that's kind of how it all started.
So how many years were you training bodybuilding before you started powerlifting?
It started back when I was a kid, just to improve my athletic performance. I started with basic movements back when I was 7, 8 years old, and I haven't stopped since.
That's crazy. The amount of time you put in lifting is admirable.
And that's what sometimes people they'll reference my work ethic, and it's something that I don't look at it as, fitness itself is something that we'll seek as an escape, as an outlet, as a means to cope with stress or, whatever mental health issues. So when people say the amount of time that I've put in, I don't really look at it like that. Something more is it's just what I know and what I've done. And I think when it comes to achieving any sort of goal, you have to look at your training and look at the variables to get there. You have to love that process. Otherwise, you're not going to be capable of reaching as high as you can, as high as you want.
So here's one question. So when you're training for a powerlifting meet,
It's random flex.
how do you schedule that with bodybuilding? Because I know you have to go on bulking, so because you want to be more massive and probably a little, higher percentage body fat on the powerlifting meets, and then as low as possible in bodybuilding. How do you do your training cycle around those, since they kind of oppose each other in a way?
Well, it started off, I would train for a bodybuilding competition, and the requirements of that put my body in such a calorie deficit to where my training was affected. And then after the competition, what I would do is I would splurge on food out of control, and then I would just start lifting heavy weights. And I did this back and forth, back and forth. And I ended up doing it enough times that I saw that there was a correlation that after I would train for these powerlifting competitions, 2-3 months, and then I would start to diet down. When I would diet back down, seeing the residual effects of the way that I was training for powerlifting and what it did to my physique. And then from there, my goal was to try to create a quantifiable approach to actual strength development and progress. The correlation between strength and development.
Yeah. So you said you have a book out on this as well. Can you go a little bit over your book and more specifically what's in it?
Fuck yeah. That's how bad I am that we would have went through this whole podcast. I wouldn't even brought it up. Hybridability. I call it hybridability, the perfect balance of aesthetic development and strength. And what I did was I put together a detailed 12-week program, and I broke it into phases. Those phases are based around advanced levels of hypertrophy, which are what I contribute towards bodybuilding, focusing on the isolated development of a muscle, and then transitioning towards powerlifting movements, compound strength movements. So when we're doing compound movements, the squat, the bench press, the deadlift, like those in powerlifting, along those planes of motions, your body will naturally recruit whatever muscle fiber it can to lift that. Now, when you get away from powerlifting, you go back and you develop and strengthen, in a isolated manner, each one of those muscles by themselves, and then you come back to powerlifting. What you've done was you've increased your ceiling potential to get stronger, just because of the way that your body recruits muscles in these lifts. I don't even remember what the question was. I just started rambling.
It was about your book, and I think you detailed it probably pretty well. I mean, it is your book, and it is your training program. So I would say
keep it rolling. Next.
When was your last powerlifting meet versus when was your last bodybuilding show that you've participated in?
Just negative memories. That's all you. I haven't competed in powerlifting. My last meet was 2017. It was the IPA Pennsylvania State Championships. I was doing that as a warm-up for, then it was the U.S. Open. And at this time, the U.S. Open, I think it was the second annual one, and it became the biggest payout powerlifting meet. I think they were giving the winner like $50,000. In the powerlifting world, that was a huge deal at the time because powerlifting started to gain some track and momentum, just growing in popularity, I think because of, the surge of social media and, the rate at which we're networked. But 2017 was the last time I competed. I actually tore my pec on my third attempt at bench press. Ended up scrapping together a crappy deadlift. But with those numbers, I still went number 1 in the nation at the time, number 4 all-time world ranking. And that's what I've been training for recently, is to go back and hopefully reclaim that number 1 spot. Last time I competed in bodybuilding was this past August, I did a national qualifier down in Panama City Beach. Fucked up. Terrible. Terrible.
Well, did it just not line up for you, or what happened with that?
See, the thing about bodybuilding is there's so much that can happen in the last 48 hours. Your body's so depleted, it's so deprived that it's so sensitive to everything that you do in it. And, over months of following a regimented diet, training, hydration, you learn when your body you learn when it holds water, you learn when you're the most lean, you learn what areas of your body hold water. And when it comes down to, like I said, those last 48 hours, the way that we have to implement sodium, water, carbohydrates, all to find that perfect physique, that look, and the way that your muscles fill out. There's just so much that can happen. And I'd say I have like a 40% rate of nailing a look, but it's near impossible that if you ask any competitor that competes in bodybuilding, physique, whatever, very rarely do they actually nail the look that they're going after. And then a lot of it's just because the dieting process is so difficult because, I call it the most educated approach to death. Because what you're doing is, you're eliminating calories in a manner that eliminates all your body fat. And then you're trying to retain as much muscle as possible only to display it on stage. But what you're doing is just a slow process of starvation, essentially.
What do you prefer? I know you probably have more questions, but what do you prefer though? Like, do you prefer the powerlifting? Or do you prefer bodybuilding? Like, what is in for you? Where do you find the most joy? Like, what brings you the most joy? Powerlifting, bodybuilding, or do you just prefer like to mix them both together?
I got you. Yeah.
What is your preference?
The one thing that's cool about bodybuilding is the amount of time that you put in when you can actually see the results in your physique change from week to week. And you get to a point where you see all the hard work and the culmination into the physique that you display. But at the same time, you're just such a tunnel vision and like you're always cloudy in your thoughts, but you're always tired. You could literally sleep and nap at any time of the day. So there's a little bit of superficial value that comes with bodybuilding because of the physique that you're able to, sculpt and reveal. But I feel like just because for powerlifting, I eat whatever the fuck I want. Who's been in a bad mood eating an ice cream sandwich? No one. You eat an ice cream sandwich every hour, you're gonna have a solid day.
Yeah. So you
I would say powerlifting, yeah, just because of the freedom that it allows. It's not as demanding of a schedule. For sure.
But even with powerlifting, though, isn't there still? To be at the level you're at, even with powerlifting, there's still a diet to maintain, right? You can eat an ice cream sandwich because you can, but there's still a level of, some form of nutrition, right? Like protein intake.
I feel like when it comes to benefiting for powerlifting, unless you're trying to make a weight class, and that's subjective from person to person based off of what you weigh and how competitive you're trying to be. But generally speaking, your body just needs to be in a surplus. If you're in a surplus of calories, your body can take protein, when you're in sleep and utilize that to rebuild new muscle tissue. But it's just a lot easier to benefit in powerlifting through nutrition because all that's required is a surplus.
And then I have a follow-up to that to my question. So so recovery for bodybuilding versus recovery for powerlifting. I'm curious because I've never ever done bodybuilding. Clearly, I've really never focused on powerlifting yet, but that's something that
it's like asking someone to describe politics. Fuck the contrast.
I got a more specific one along that line. So, when you did powerlifting, were you always just doing the open weight division, or were you ever cutting in powerlifting to meet weight division in powerlifting?
Oh, for sure. And, just like any sport that has weight classes, generally speaking, you're going to be most competitive when you cut a weight, So when I train for powerlifting, I like to walk around 290, 295 pounds, around 300, just because I like to utilize that extra fat, that water retention. That water retention serves as lubrication in my knees. Like, I need those fat layers as cushions for my joints. But then what I'll do is 2 weeks out, I'll eliminate all processed foods and I'll time it so that I have a gradual cut, but without sacrificing any strength, so that all I have to do is skip the meal the night before weigh-ins, and then I coast in. And as soon as I weigh in at 275, part of the process of competing is the night before, in which I'm trying to put that 20 pounds right back on.
What would you say the major differences between doing the final cut for a powerlifting meet to make the weigh-ins versus doing cut for bodybuilding? And on the back end, what's the differences in when you're kind of like refeeding yourself and bringing yourself back up? Well, I know bodybuilding is done after a competition, where powerlifting it's done, before the competition. But how's the cutting and then, getting yourself back? How do they differ between the two?
Sure. The way that I do it for powerlifting is not much different than what I'm doing for bodybuilding. But in bodybuilding, you're required to do it for such an extended period of time that you actually see the effects on your body, on your mind, the way that that carries out into your overall life. When I'm doing it for powerlifting, the amount of weight that I have to cut, what I'm doing to my diet mimics what I do for bodybuilding, but that's just because of the knowledge that I have from bodybuilding. There's a lot of powerlifters who solely like to do water cuts. I don't like to do water cuts because when you load back up, I feel like there's so much opportunity for a hormonal imbalance for your body to reject the water. Like you'll see guys hooked up to IVs because they do such drastic cuts. I feel like that's just flipping the coin on having a bad performance.
I didn't know that about hooking up to IVs and shit with powerlifting.
Oh yeah, I mean some of the top-notch powerlifters, the ones who, like I said, you're more competitive. So if you can get down to a weight class, make that weight, balloon back up, step on the platform, plus 20, plus 25 pounds, you're able to lift the weights, but still fall in the guidelines, of making weight.
If you look at someone like Steffi Cohen, she does that a lot, and I've seen in recent times she's going after particular records for a particular weight class that she really should not be in anymore. And when you say her, like how much water weight she's cutting, she's really kind of pushing it to the edge.
Oh, wow.
I mean, she's also, I want to say she has her PhD as well. We had breakfast once 2 years ago at Rob and Dana Bailey's. They had a deadlift competition, and it was Larry Wheels was there, Black Tom Cruise, Kevin Oak. And we all lifted together, I remember. As far as, what are you referencing, her water cuts?
Yeah, I've seen her do some pretty killer, like some pretty massive water cuts in recent time, especially for the a couple months ago. She had a really drastic water cut.
Did she perform well?
Oh, it's Steffi Cohen. She always performs well.
She does.
She knows what she's doing. Like you said,
she has a PhD. Yeah, she's one of the few people. Her, Ben Pollock, the two people I believe in the fitness industry who are actually, it's almost like they're conducting research on themselves, but at such a high level, and they're walking the walk. I mean, Steffi and Ben, they're the ones especially in the powerlifting world, who like talk about it and then they fucking do it.
Yeah.
Boom. How many people are talking about shit but doing nothing? Pretty much everyone.
Very true. It's very true.
So I guess a quick one here. So what do you think about the 800-pound bench press? Do you think he is going to be? Do you think he's going to get that again, or
who's benching 800?
Julius Maddox, man.
Oh yeah, he's a big boy and he's strong. I think. What did he just hit? What was the record that he broke? I saw that.
He's somewhere like seven. He's like 760s, I think now. He went for 800. They loaded it wrong.
Oh, that was that one.
Yeah.
How the fuck do you do that? Someone should be in trouble.
So someone who's
it's as bad as like, hey, here, videotape my PR, and then you smash your PR, and then the buddy didn't videotape.
Well,
that's as bad as that.
And then you take that to the maximum possible level of that it's a world record.
Yeah, and that could potentially hurt him.
On ESPN.
Yeah, I'm bitch slapping someone.
And that's a lot of people's first exposure to powerlifting, because they're watching ESPN because there's nothing else on, and they misload the plates on Maddox going for the world record.
Was that why powerlifting was on ESPN?
Yep. Was for his bench press.
Misload. Sorry. He handled it better than any other human, in my opinion.
Yeah. Did he handle well?
Oh,
very well. Yeah. So my question is this: as someone who's done some like ridiculous weights, I guess both of you've done some pretty good weights. A re-rack like that, how much does that actually take out of it? because like
Did he actually attempt it?
so he what he did was he supported the weight, and then it got re-racked. So they got it to, when you're about to start. He didn't go down yet, and then they re-racked it. But I know that's got to take your mind out of it, like psych you out in a way. So so how much do you think that plays into it?
For him specifically? Well, you got to take into consideration, even whenever, like if I'm competing in powerlifting and for instance, the squat, just because the amount that I'm able to squat, the amount of time that goes into my warm-ups, how I have to time jump to jump, weight to weight, so that my body is primed to be as strong as possible, but at the same time, it hasn't tapped into fatigue to where it affects my top end performance. So for someone like this, when he's benching, 7 something, the amount of sets, he basically gets an entire workout warming up into that, and you might be good for 1 or 2 attempts, but at the same time, when you flip the switch and you're mentally locked in for this lift right here, and then something like that goes bad. But this is also, I say, what separates the difference between, like the B- gym rats and the ones who I call gamers, because, I've seen people who they'll bomb out their first 2 squats. It takes out a lot mentally, and usually they'll bomb out just for the meat, but people who are able to miss a lift and come back and get something, that takes like another level of mentality. You have to channel something like at a very primal state to be able to do that. And that's the cool thing about powerlifting, is that because you're forced to find your 1 rep max, just beyond your 1 rep max is failure. So mentally and physically, how you have to line those variables to be top end performance on that given day, just what goes into it is really cool to me.
And you think him having to, because that misload was an entire plate.
That's what it was. They missed the plate.
An entire plate, one side. So with what you just said, locking in that mindset, that would fuck you. I would think that would fuck you mentally.
So what happened to him then? Did he get another shot?
But
they missed
his one.
They re-racked it. He probably took about 30 seconds. He stood up and sat back down.
So he didn't even they didn't let it go through like the whole list. Like he just stood up, took a chill, and then.
Yeah, they put another one on in about 30 seconds to a minute later.
See, that's where I see a lot of powerlifters. Probably the majority of the powerlifters would be like, "Oh, I'm good to do it again." But from a physiological standpoint, especially with those numbers and that amount of time, no, you're not going to get it. Just physically, you might have the mindset, like you think you can, and you want to try it, but. No, it's not going to happen.
Because as a strongman fan, it's kind of driving me even more crazy, because he said once he gets 800-pound bench press, he's going to strongman, and that was his plan then. And so until he gets it, we have to keep waiting to see what he's going to do to our sport.
Is he a bench specialist?
Yes.
He is, but here's the thing. They've shown him deadlifting and squatting around 800 pounds on his Instagram. I think some of them were like a couple years back. I'm sure it's not too different now. He could actually do 815 squat, 815 bench, 815 deadlift, and take the raw powerlifting record. And he could take the raw powerlifting overall with an 800 and from when I was checking, it was 2,450 something pounds.
By, was it Dan Bell? Is he there? Brandon Allen's up there. He's above 308.
Julius Maddox would have to be open heavyweight.
Julius Maddox is like 440 pounds.
Yeah, he's 400.
Didn't Dan Bell just break a record? Didn't he have the overall total at super heavyweight?
Is he raw?
Yeah.
Okay, so raw powerlifting total. This was in 2016, was 23. I know it's gone up since then. It's 24. It's 2450 or something. Somewhere in mid ranks. I just think it's hilarious that Julius Maddox, if he can do 815 bench, then all he has to do is 815 squat, 815 deadlift to take it.
That is kind of.
And he could have it with an 815 deadlift. He could have the overall record with
Has he ever did full power though?
He hasn't done a full meet in the last. As far as I could find, he's only done bench.
When it comes to the training cycle, it's one thing when you hit a PR in squat, in bench, a deadlift. But when it comes to a competition day, the way that you have to acclimate your body and prime it, that you have 9 max effort temp to lifts and across 3 different movements, like just the toll that actually takes on your body and being able to prime that to not fatigue. And especially for the big dudes, it becomes an issue because this competition spans over the course of over a whole day. And if he's a bench specialist, to be able to squat 800, bench 800, and then finish the day strong and still deadlift 800, which is probably his weakest lift, I'd be impressed. I'd be curious to see how he would do if he trained for a powerlifting.
Here's the thing too about his deadlift though. If he's benching 800 pounds, you can pretty much row what you can bench. And if he can bench 800, he can row his 800-pound deadlift up, right? To a degree. Like, you got to think about it. His bench and his deadlift are like the same number, so.
Okay, this is the part where I actually argued with you again about this too, Justin. Now we have Nam here.
I'm not saying I'm arguing. I just wanted you to clarify what you were saying so that I could get, just so I could be on the same page. What were you saying about rowing?
I was just saying his bench is so high that his row's got to be real high, and that he could probably his deadlift could be garbage form.
Where does that correlation come from? You said that his bench is high, his row is high. Why did you say that? Not that I'm arguing you.
I'll argue with you, Justin, because
it's sort of the reverse movement of a bench.
Yeah, but
because you're pulling up instead of pressing down. Yeah, but I'm assuming he trains it as an accessory.
But he's a bench specialist. So do you think he trains that accessory to the same degree that he trains his bench? I guarantee he doesn't row. I guarantee he doesn't row 400. Maybe 400. But that's it.
Yeah, I just
400's a big row.
That's a massive row.
Yeah.
I can row more. I think I can row. I can row as much as I can bench.
So you think rowing has a bit like top row probably has a bigger correlation with deadlift than it does with bench, or you just think it doesn't have a correlation straight to bench or deadlift?
I do believe that rowing has a carryover benefit to the deadlift, absolutely, because when you're doing a bent over row, is it weird if I perform like an air exercise?
No, absolutely.
Hold on, turn this down. So if I'm doing a bent over row, I'm holding the weight right here. My legs are bent, firm base, the downward torque of this weight right here. So say I have 3 plates on this. I rail, and when I go back down, that torque comes all the way back down into the hinge of my back. So my posterior chain, hamstrings, glutes, lower back, from that rail, what I'm doing right here. So how that strengthens your posterior chain and the way that carries over into the deadlift has more correlation than if I'm laying on my back doing that bench press. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What's up?
I just like to think about like how like what was the record before he got to it, like 700, like 701 or something. I mean, and then he's taking it nearly all the way up to 800, and no one else is close in the raw. Just like it's just kind of interesting to think about like his full total if he, because
That's one of the reasons I'm not as hyped about him coming to strong. I mean, I'm excited because he'll bring a lot of eyes to it. But
does he have a big following?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he has a very big following.
Well, I mean, that's why I thought it was comical at first that if he's a bench specialist, and he hits this landmark, which is an unbelievable landmark, there are very few events in strongman that actually where bench carries over to specifically.
Strongman don't train it at all.
Yeah, the best strongmen are the dudes with the biggest deadlifts and the biggest squats, because those are the 2 compound movements that have, the most carryover benefit to human performance in general.
But the one thing he does train pressing in general, so there's tons of videos of him doing ridiculous inclines and even like ridiculous overhead press. Well, basically, he's probably going to be the best. I feel like he's going to be the best presser in strongman. Like I feel like he already is. He just isn't too strongman. But that depends on Mateus. What I can't wait to see them go at it. But I feel like
I'm excited for it, but I just don't think
I'm gonna call flop too. I'm calling flop.
Yeah, I don't think a bench specialist I don't think a bench specialist comes to strongman and just blows everyone's mind, because that overhead press. I mean, I'm working on my log now to prep for October. I want to get that dialed in, and then once I have that, I just don't think my bench doesn't affect that. I'll probably be able to log press more than I'll be able to bench.
Well, I wonder about the deadlift because he's not doing a full competition meet, and you can probably assume that his deadlift is going to be on the weaker side. And you just go into strongman where the deadlifts are higher, or maybe the equipment.
All the big boys, I feel like have weak deadlifts, and a lot of times benches too. I feel like the strongest benches come from pound for pound, 242, 275. If you would look at the top 10 bench presses from 275 to 308, 275 will usually beat the 308 guys, just because a lot of the competitiveness when it comes to the national level, 275 guys, 242 guys are the elite level athletes who have picked up weight training sports, strength training sports, and have carried over from that base. Whereas a lot of the real big boys are oftentimes the one coming from no athletic background, but are just kind of like big boys getting strong. Generalized. I'm not saying that's like how it is for everyone, but the higher weight classes are less competitive when it comes pound for pound, and especially in the deadlift.
Yeah, I just he's going from powerlifting to strongman, so I wonder if the deadlift is even going to be a bigger cripple than it was in strongman, or was it previously powerlifting.
What's going through his mind and what makes him think that he's going to carry over and be as competitive when you can't even call it powerlifting if he's a bench specialist. And that's no disrespect.
Yeah.
I like Julian Maddox. I do. I like Julian Maddox. I think
nothing
he's
from
a great
him.
following, and I think he is a great bench presser. However, if he would be doing full meets and we could see those numbers, like if he could deadlift 815 pounds, like you said, if he can deadlift that, if he can deadlift 800, at least at that point he can grow it. But if he's right now, if he's deadlifting even high sevens, we're looking at, okay, that's one that he's still not even really that high, because you got amateurs out there deadlifting, you know.
We were just talking about this.
Yeah.
Fucking, when it comes to the deadlift, especially these like 165, 170 pound motherfuckers pulling the same as, 308 guys. Like I'll see in my gram just scrolling, it's 170 pound dude pulling 715 for 4 reps. But that's where we start to see the precision and the technicalities that go into the movement itself. People are starting to pay more attention to technique, form, rather than just being strong itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I pulled pretty strong, but
The lower weight divisions, they've seen some, like you're saying, with the optimization, they've seen some massive weight increases over the last 10 years. Like, it's almost unrecognizable.
yeah.
And I think it has to, it's a combination of like our knowledge of training principles, of nutrition, and now we're at a point in like the societal timeline where people are almost being groomed from an early age, whether it be like even indirectly because they're involved in sports and activities like that.
So I know a lot of people think about how far they're going to take it before they're going to dial back. And so where do you see yourself competing longer in? Bodybuilding or powerlifting? And which one do you see yourself at the end being more successful when you're done?
Most likely probably more successful in powerlifting. But bodybuilding is something that I already have. If you already have the mass accumulated, all it takes is activation. How I said earlier about, you could take a 30-pound dumbbell and curl that for 5 sets to failure. And if you're eating the right things, if you're taking the right supplements, that muscle will develop compared to someone who's focusing on trying to curl more weight with proper form each time. So the effects that powerlifting has on my body, I think that career will end sooner than what bodybuilding will be the thing that I could probably carry out into my 40s, just because of the way that you can adapt to the styles necessary or whatever you have to do to compete.
Do you see yourself competing all the way into your 40s? Or do you see yourself just... How long do you think you're going to... Like, because right now, it looks like for a while, looking at Instagram, that you've been going like ham at this. How long do you see you keeping up your current pace? Or what you're kind of like, I'm going to hang it up then? Or are you just like, you feel great now, and you're not even thinking about it?
I'd say powerlifting. The reason that I'm training right now and competing is I'm not satisfied with the numbers that I'm leaving on the table. And I know that I can do better. And I'm just trying to be as thorough and precise and patient in my training as possible. Because, when it comes to strength progression, if I feel like it's ego that holds us back, because it's always a tweak. And as soon as we tweak something, then we're forced to take a non-optimal approach to whatever our goals are. And that's when people just end up getting hurt, and then they move away from it.
So, what's your best total right now?
2205 at my last meet. Like I said, I tore my pec on my third attempt bench, wrapped together a shitty deadlift, and those were the best numbers that was the best numbers that I've ever had with that torn pec. And it still lands me currently, I think, number 11 all-time world ranking in 275s. It's one a bad day.
2205.
And where do you want to leave it? Like, where in your head do you have your total? You're like, that's your goal total.
I mean, there's so much that goes into it as far as just like your outside environmental variables, to have like a stable home life, to be able to, align everything to be precise day in and day out. When, I say, brick by brick, it's because, each day the efforts that we put in, it contributes to whatever the long-term goal is. And, eventually it sifts down to the details that we put in every single day. What most often what people don't even see is what contributes to our progress. Yeah. I don't even remember what the question was.
What is your goal total? What is your?
So right now, the world's strongest professional bodybuilder is Stan Efferding. He is the pioneer. Served like a mentor to me. He totaled, I think, 2303, and he is an IFBB pro. And that's the title that I think a lot of the power builders or hybrid athletes are kind of going after. Like when you say about Larry Wheels. Larry Wheels will most likely never win a pro card in bodybuilding.
No.
But that's the status. That's so I mean 2300. I like to think that if I put together a solid training cycle that could be doable.
2300. Yeah, that's definitely ridiculous.
More ramen, more cheeseburgers.
So you talked earlier about how powerlifting positively affected your bodybuilding, how bodybuilding positively affected your powerlifting. Now, what would you say the inverse of that? Where do you think bodybuilding is taken away from your powerlifting most, and where do you think powerlifting has taken away from your bodybuilding most?
That was deep. So I'll start with where bodybuilding takes away from powerlifting. So because bodybuilding has to do with the isolated development and balanced development of all the muscles on the body, from your hamstrings to your quads, they have to be developed, they have to be separated. So to spend time on, I feel like, isolating a lot of these small muscles, it takes away from the time you could spend doing strength training things. But also this is where hybridability came from, that, when you take time and develop those muscles, and forget about powerlifting, forget about strength training at all. You develop these muscles as you do in bodybuilding. Then you go back to powerlifting. Like I said, you've increased your ceiling potential to be stronger. So I do think there's a synergistic effect whenever you transition the phases and isolate them going back and forth, which is pretty much what hybridability revolves around.
So it seems like you feel like you've gotten more net positives out of doing both than how they detriment. You think they've given you overall more positives?
Oh yeah, I wouldn't even talk negatively about the two. I think they work synergistically together for sure. Strength, development.
So as you've watched kind of powerlifting over the last decade and bodybuilding over the last decade, where do you think they're both heading? Like, how do you see, because the rapid growth in all these kind of sports has been insane. Where are you seeing it?
Say the first part again. I missed that.
Oh, just looking back at like how much things have changed, like the last 10 years in powerlifting, as well as how much they've changed in the last 10 years in bodybuilding. Where do you see them going from here? Like, where do you see it in 5 to 10 years from now?
I feel like bodybuilding itself is on the decline. And I think that's because, as a society, because the surge of social media and technology, we're pushing for a more introverted society. The ways that, shopping malls are out, everything's online. It's bodybuilding itself. I think there are more people, especially through social media, that just follow the fitness world, but are not actually prepared to put in the time to do it. And I think that's widening the gap. Like, female bodybuilding, they just nixed from the Olympia a couple years ago. So it's like female bodybuilding is dying. The sport of bodybuilding itself is kind of dying. Whereas powerlifting, I feel, has potential to be the future of fitness because the simplicity of the movements involved. You take the squat, the bench press, and the deadlift. Along those planes of motion, it's a straight bar path, one simplified bar path. That's something that, if executed properly, is beneficial for whether you're 8, whether you're 95, man, woman, doesn't matter. For overall health benefits, powerlifting is a positive, and I think could be like a solid movement for society in regards to fitness and health.
Do you think a lot of the do you think CrossFit's a big reason as well?
Say that again.
Do you think a lot of the bodybuilding people are being lost to CrossFit as well? Because the bodybuilding slope and the CrossFit uprise have been kind of going at like the same rate. Because if you look at the physiques they have, it's very bodybuilding-esque because they're not rocking a whole lot of body fat in CrossFit.
For sure. But I don't believe that the sport of bodybuilding is like, you can put together the correlation in the rise of CrossFit and the, decline of bodybuilding, but I don't think it's that we're losing bodybuilders to CrossFitting. I think it's just, the way CrossFit was marketed, the emphasis that it revolves around as far as like high intensity and combining multiple aspects and movements. I think it just naturally, like, it took off. Bodybuilding, I think, is dying a lot of time I think because the unhealthy lifestyles that sometimes are associated with the extreme levels of bodybuilding. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it does get more flack on that end than at powerlifting or strongman or even CrossFit, even though, it's all the same, like as far as what you're putting your body through. So what do you think about all the new divisions in bodybuilding? Do you think that helped it overall or hurt it overall?
The new divisions, do I think that it hurt or helped bodybuilding?
Overall, for a wider audience and its overall popularity.
Well, that's that's the exact root and the reasoning behind creating these new divisions is to create appeal to a larger audience, because the people who are competing, like, that's what's driving in the money. And just from spending, my time, like, I've lived out in Vegas for a year, being so integrated into the fitness industry and being able to see, on the other side of the fence, what's driving, these promoters, what's driving these federations, what is it they're looking at, the target audience, the demographic, the patterns and trends of society, and how to, essentially, it's sad to say it, but keep money in their pockets. Real shit you over here.
Who are your favorite bodybuilders when you're getting into it? Like when you started taking bodybuilding or just getting massive seriously, who was your inspiration? People you looked at, you're like, I want that.
For sure. Well, this would have been early to mid 90s. And it started out just because my dad would always take me to the gym, and he'd have all these like flex and muscle fitness magazines. So like throughout my entire youth, indirectly, I grew up reading these like muscle magazines. Like, this is Jay Cutler's leg routine, or Flex Wheeler, Hidetada, Brandon Curry. And it's interesting because a lot of these people are end up being people that I became friends with just from my time in the industry, which has made it super cool.
When you're looking at them, did you picture yourself at that size and the size you are now? Or when did it click that you're like, oh, I got the genetics, I can go big? What were you, like, when were you, or was that always from day one, you're like, I'm going to be huge?
Or never. I still feel like I'm 14 years old. It's funny when people comment on my physique, because it's literally just been the indirect result of what I've enjoyed doing, necessarily what I've mentally sought after itself. That's always an interesting contrast as far as just being able to observe from city to city that I've lived in, how people perceive me because of something that I've just enjoyed doing, rather than like what you said, like knowing that I can do it.
So your biggest thing is you just enjoy the process, and then the process just takes you where it takes you.
In a sense, yeah, but like I said, fitness is also an awesome outlet just because of the ways that it connects your mind and your body. You learn about your body. You learn the ways that it moves, Even if you've never been to a gym before, if you go in and you do a few exercises and the next day you're sore, you can pinpoint your soreness with the movements that you did. Right there, you're learning about your body. That's ultimately, sums up the entirety of the process.
I agree with that. Yeah, I think that's what hooks people to the gym. Honestly,
To feel good about themselves,
feel
because
good and then I always like that. Whenever you start isolating something or you try a new exercise and then you can finally feel a muscle. For me, my lats. I can never feel my lats ever until I started doing full range of motion, like one here, and you bring it here, and I finally found out. It was like never clicked until that point.
And that's actually that's a common thing too, because we tend as gym rats to glorify the areas that when we're lifting we see instant gratification. So the chest, the shoulders, the arms. These are the body parts that when we lift them, we see our body pumping up. And then we tend to neglect the lower back, the hamstrings. Because we can't see them when we're training. There's no gratification in them. There's no glory in that. So that's actually a common thing, just like how the normal person who goes to the gym, like they'll struggle with back exercises, with back development, because they don't know how to mentally engage it because they can't see it.
I took me forever. I wanted to build my back. I wanted to get a nice strong back, and I couldn't find anything. And then I finally found an exercise that actually hit my back, hit my lats right. And as soon as I could feel that, now I can engage my lats and bench press. When I'm deadlifting, I can engage my lats. I actually know how to get them to fire and use these big chunks of muscle that are in every human's back. Finally figured out that was 5 years ago, but thank you.
My man.
What's some of your favorite moments so far from your just strength journey overall? Like, what were some of the highlights that stick out to you?
Yeah, memory lane. Definitely, when I got fourth at nationals in bodybuilding. This is down in Miami in 2017. That was a real big moment for me. Of course, I tore my pec at the state championships in 2017, but I was also named the IPA Lifter of the Year, which was super cool. I think 2018, I had a poster because of competing inside every GNC store in the nation. So that was kind of surreal. Like the first time I walked into GNC and saw my poster hanging up, it was kind of cool. I mean, it's created, I've lived in 6 cities over the last 10 years, and fitness has been something that I've been heavily involved in within every one of those cities, and just the experiences and the people that I've been able to meet, and it's super cool.
That's awesome. 6 cities. Damn.
So, I guess. No, I'm just running out of questions.
Fuck.
Justin's been asking all kinds of questions.
Yeah. So I guess at this point, so who do you enjoy watching in powerlifting? I guess now, who are you looking at in bodybuilding? Who are you looking now in powerlifting? You just enjoy watching.
Oh, that's super cool. It's especially cool too because a lot of the people that I follow, they're actually just homies of mine. So being able to respect and just look up to these guys. Steve Gentilly, he just opened up Indy City Barbell. I think he was one of the top 10 guys, maybe back in like 2016, 17-ish, right when the sport was starting to take off. He's one of my favorite lifters. Kevin Oak is one of the most impressive lifters. Dennis Cornelius, I think he has the all-time record in the natural 275-pounder division, which is incredibly impressive. And there's tons of lighter guys too. Nowadays, it's cool because across 3 different movements, just to see how social media has allowed us to see not only training, but like personalities also with this. So, I bash social media a lot because of the ways that it's had a negative effect on society, but it's also cool because of the way that it connects us too with these people.
I agree with the connection thing.
Oh yeah. Following the people that you enjoy watching and or people that you know, and just seeing their lifts go up and being able to follow them, it's at this kind of levels, it makes it all that much better.
Well, I think even regardless of whether you're at that level or not, I think it's cool that social media, like that you can watch your favorite lifters, or you're watching these people and you're starting to enjoy it because you like watching them. Sometimes you have people who end up liking these sports because of a single person. their representation
time.
of who they are within the sport is, and it's cool because you can see personalities. It's like a little bit into their everyday life and who they are.
Fun fact, one of the things that got me most interested in powerlifting, I liked strongman for a while, but what actually brought me into powerlifting was you and Vita. Whenever Vita was going, when he was competing, watching that on the social media, and then obviously here at the gym, seeing you guys.
Oh, the progression.
That was, and that actually is what made me like, well, I kind of care about powerlifting now. I've never in my life ever refreshed a powerlifting or any website as much as I did the day Vita was competing at RPS. When you guys went to that comp.
Who he's referencing right now is the kid that went to high school with us and someone that showed an interest in lifting. And I told him that I will coach you, I will train you, I'll tell you what to do every single week. I will oversee your diet for the weight cut, and we're going to break a state record. And I told him this 2-3 months out, and we picked out a competition, and I did all of those things. And it's funny because to this day, whenever I reference this, he ended up breaking 2 state records that day in his first ever powerlifting meet. And it all unraveled the exact way that I told him that it would. And just created a cool bond. But that's what he's talking about, is this kid that I ended up coaching, and he smashed a few state records. And now we're going to start training again for a world record.
But so y'all went to school together?
Yes.
It's a lot of records coming out of one high school. Did your football team ever lose?
Yeah, we weren't that great.
That was the worst assumption ever. We would fucking suck.
We had studs. We had a couple studs on the team. Obviously,
we come from such a small town where the majority of coaches, kids growing up, we blindly respect these coaches. We blindly take their word. We listen to them, whatever.
Yeah.
But these coaches, for the most part, are nothing more than just a teacher that makes an extra $2,000 for volunteering. They don't actually have an understanding of the sport or a strategy or of the recruiting process.
Yeah, Stokes.
Just some massive numbers coming out of that high school.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, well, there's some studs that come out.
There's some good studs.
For being a small town, yeah, there's some freaks around here.
There are. We were just talking about a couple of them. It was like Derek Baker. Ain't no slouch.
I guess, and here's an interesting one. So, number one power lifter you'd like to see transition to bodybuilding, and number one bodybuilder you'd like to see transition to powerlifting, just for one meet or just for one show, just because you're curious how they do.
For sure. Easily. First one, bodybuilding right now, Nick Walker. Nick Walker is coached by Matt Jansen. He's a close buddy of mine, probably one of the best prep coaches in the game of bodybuilding. He looks like a fucking lab rat. He's an experiment. That's what he is. Aligning all the variables, doing all the right things, and trains like a motherfucking gorilla. And his strength, I think that he could be easily one of the best powerlifters, and he just looks like a fucking freak, Nick Walker. Powerlifter that would make a transition, Steve Gentilly. PT Fitness is his name on Instagram. He's had a few injuries that have kept him sidelined, and he's making a comeback. But as far as overall physique, he would be an underrated powerlifter that has what it takes to be a next-level bodybuilder. Sure.
Do you think he'd be more successful if he actually transitioned from powerlifting to bodybuilding?
I don't want to say that because he's a homie. I'm hyping up anything that he chooses to do. That's the type of homie I am. I'm hyping him up. He has had a few injuries, like I said, that have sidelined him, so I'm not sure where his health is. But if even when it was all done and he transitioned to bodybuilding, I think he could crush it. Why are you laughing?
I'm sure you've told him that too. I can hear you telling him that.
Maybe, I don't know.
Try it. It's funny, that was quick too. You. This is something you've thought about. That was good.
Well,
good on you, Justin. Good on you.
There's a lot of good powerlifters out there, but because of what it takes to compete in powerlifting, it revolves around 3 movements. So there are a lot of powerlifters that literally base their training around doing all those 3 movements at different intensities, but in every single workout throughout the week, compared to people who have different approaches and transition methods and styles. But the majority of powerlifters are imbalanced when it comes from an aesthetic physique standpoint because of the time that they put in just in powerlifting. They're not quite as, like I said, well-rounded, balanced, developed, complete from a bodybuilding aspect. Yeah.
Yeah, and I seen something too.
Just a random bicep flex.
Flex all you want. I saw something. I think it was. I think it was on your social media, on your Instagram, about why you don't the reverse grip because of the lat development. I thought that was something
yeah.
I read, man. I don't just look at your pictures and hit like. I actually read your shit, but because
I've never heard anyone reference that either. But that's something
that was interesting to me because
Thrall. He actually talked about that.
What's that?
Alan Thrall had a video where he said that he used to reverse grip deadlift for years, and then he noticed he had a massive imbalance, like very obvious imbalance in his shoulders, and then he stopped, and now he just does hook grip because it was something like development in his lap was like way different.
What I was referencing is actually what Nam had typed out. He actually posted that. You posted, it was pretty long.
So typically in a competitive deadlift, most people will do an over-under grip. The new age thing is the fucking hook grip. It pisses me off because people actually use their thumbs. They'll wrap it around the bar, then use their thumb as a strap, and that's what catches tension. Like how fucking people do this with 700-800 pounds, I have no idea.
It hurts. Man.
Yeah.
You ever tried hook grip?
I try it every fucking week I deadlift. I work up to 3 plates and I cry. And I just go back.
Really? You tried hook grip now?
Yeah, until 3 plates and it hurts too much.
And
So
what was the name? Dr. Deadlift is like, no, you just keep hook gripping and eventually you just don't feel your thumb anymore.
Dr. Deadlift's physique instruction. He's got fucking those long monkey arms like this. Like I have the shortest motherfucking, it's awesome for benching, but like when it comes to like my hands are not that fucking big.
How he made it sound like he's just killed like all the nerves on that side of his thumb. It's just numb now from all the hook grip.
I've talked to you about that because I don't have small hands. I have fairly large hands.
Can you hook grip?
Yeah.
This isn't gay. That's real gay. But he can hook grip. I can't.
And I've done 4 or 5 hook grip, but I don't like because the pressure across my thumb. It is. Have you tried hook grip, Justin?
I've tried it, but my hands are even smaller, so I just do reverse.
Boys have an issue. That's what it is.
Chubby boys.
Me too. I'm included in that. What I was saying though, so the traditional over/under grip right here.
Yeah.
Now, when we're deadlifting 5, 6, whatever, how much weight we're doing, I've noticed that from my time powerlifting, because of even training like this, whenever I go to initiate lift off in the deadlift, the tension, the way that it distributes tension on my back, I have uneven imbalances in my left and right lat development from this right here, is what he was saying.
Yeah, because it was kind of a fun post because of and we talked about this the other day, straps versus no straps when you're training for powerlifting. Noam got a little triggered in a post on Instagram.
I'm not sensitive or anything. Super sensitive.
But I'm not saying this is a negative thing. I use straps if you can, and it will help you build. You will get stronger. But that was part of that. It was like kind of that happened, and then you talked about the imbalance in the lat. It might have all been the same thing, but I just thought it was very interesting because I was like, oh, nice. And then pulling a bicep. I've seen
you see so many guys, ripping a fucking bicep,
and you just watch that bicep go. Boom.
Yep, you see it roll up the arm. It always makes me like.
Every time, man. Why even chance it? Whenever I just hook grip is an option for people with bigger hands or whatever. But then there's I don't know. I would just
if grip is an issue, absolutely you shouldn't be using straps. You should be trying to strengthen your grip. But grip has never been an issue for me, and I'm more concerned about
especially at higher weights. That bicep becomes like a much bigger deal.
Fuck yeah, the bicep's one of the smallest muscles in the body, and just like the calf, and that's why it requires such an intense amount of frequency to develop the bicep and the calves. That's why people have such a hard time with them, because of the amount of indirect stimulation they get throughout the fucking day.
Yeah, it's so easy to engage your bicep on a deadlift, not thinking about it, like not even trying to use it.
What was that, Justin?
I was just saying, it's so pictures.
Did he look legit?
He looked shredded, but he looked weird.
Oh,
He's like
looks like
90% chest.
well, that's what I was talking about with powerlifting as well. Just because of the structure and the style of training, not everything has carryover benefit to actual muscular development.
I've never seen Eddie Hall bodybuilding pictures.
I've never seen that either.
Here, I'll send you guys one right now. Copy image address. Here, you can. There you go.
Oh, there he is. World's strongest man, him now, ish.
Oh, so that's not an actual bodybuilding picture. That's just him leaning up.
Yeah.
He looks kind of good.
No, he leaned up to do bodybuilding. I don't know. He didn't actually do a competition, but he was trying to develop a physique. Yeah. When he said he finished, he's like, I want to cut and see what kind of physique I can get. But it wasn't necessarily compete. It was he just wanted to see what it looked like when someone like him tries to go on a bodybuilding regimen.
Well, Terry Hollins did that, and he looked.
Terry looked fucking insane. Like, yeah. I think Terry Holland, besides, what was his name? Won a ton of World's Strongest Man. Actually did pretty decent in bodybuilding.
Pujanowski?
Yes.
No. Was it?
Wait.
Well, he was always.
Oh, Mariusz Pujanowski?
Yeah.
He was like the pioneer. Because I remember seeing him on ESPN, like when I would stay up at like 8, too late, and he'd be on like World's Strongest Man in the middle of the night. He was a tank.
Well, yeah, he won more than anybody. That's who Brian chose. Did you send me a picture of?
Oh,
that's legit.
Oh yeah,
That's
Terry
legit.
Hollins is. Yeah.
Terry Hollins is probably in the contender for the strongest man to not win World's Strongest Man.
It's a terrible title, but.
Well, I mean, it's him, like, and there's like 2 other people who very clearly could have won World's Strongest Man for several years, and it just never lined up.
This guy that we're looking at right here,
Terry Hollins.
Yeah, he's legit. Like, he was within points of winning World's Strongest Man like 3 times.
Oh damn!
Against like Brian Shaw and Big Z, like in the hardest era of strongman.
Oh.
So that's what it looks like when a strongman shreds all the weight. Oh, you want to see what he looked like when he was? Oh, you saw the other picture.
Yep.
Showed him.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what he looked like when he's competing in strongman. That's what it looked like when he did a bodybuilding show.
That's badass. I mean, that's any bodybuilder would respect that too.
Any human who's into strength would be like.
And then just to finish this up, this is what he looks like now that he's doing strongman again.
He's back. I noticed that. I noticed that whenever he was going for the. Oh no, he's not as. That's not that recent of a picture, is it?
Looks great though.
He does. He's put on for that deadlift a couple weeks ago or a week ago. I could see that he was putting on. He put on a little bit more than that.
That was Masters when he won that.
Okay. So if you go back, yeah, he's got a little bit more now, but he's still
lean. Yeah.
I mean, this was really what he was.
Sloppy, strong.
Oh, he was very strong.
The strongest, yeah.
But
it's something similar with Big Z as well. But Big Z's never taken a picture with his shirt off. But Big Z got really shredded. You can tell by his arms, but like Big Z has a shirt phobia apparently. I'm trying to find one.
Big Z was one that always carried. Big Z always was able to carry more weight than most. It's just easy.
Oh shit.
Yeah. And like that was him competing. So a lot of these though, I have to. They're all front shots, and no disrespect to the guys, but like even Eddie Hall, if he would have just turned sideways in that picture, you would see a heat.
Well, I don't understand how Eddie's whole abs, like how they look like no one else is on the planet.
The blocks.
And then he has like massive things on the side, like it's just funny, like, and they don't line up. They're all like staggered.
Yeah. He's probably one of the strongest humans to ever live statically.
Oh yeah. Because him and Thor.
Kilograms, Eddie Hall, and then axle press, log press. He all but had the log press world record.
Yeah.
Those are nuts.
Yeah, it's interesting to see when the strongmen try to cross over because there's just so much muscle under all that fat.
Yeah. I wish that was my situation.
And it's starting to change now, though. The new generation's coming in way leaner than the old generation.
Oh, yeah.
Like if you look at Tom Staltman or like Mateus or even Martins, a lot of times they're rocking like way leaner.
They're leaner than like Big Z in his prime.
It's because the vertical diet came in. Like the vertical diet puts all of them way leaner.
Damn.
You ever tried that vertical diet?
I mean, I kind of just like eat it. Like I've just naturally, like that's my lifestyle, is kind of eating with the vertical diet. Kind of, I wouldn't say that I follow it like precisely.
To the T, but
Yeah.
Because the vertical diet's just like keto light.
No, it's heavy.
Or from what I say. Because you do mostly like keto foods, but then you have rice and before you work out for like massive energy boost. But when I looked at it, it looked like it was a lot of like just proteins and like
healthy fats, eggs, steak, shit like that.
Yeah.
Like
and then the rice was just for like for energy. Like you do a ton of it for your pre-workout meals.
Has he ever tried to get you to jump on his vertical diet?
We're on like the opposite end of like the. He would never try to do that. Like his following and fan base is plenty there.
He's like, no, jump on the vertical diet.
He would never say that. He would never even bring up the vertical diet.
So with everyone kind of transitioning, like a lot of people are finding ways to kind of carry their career past when they're done doing like bodybuilding, powerlifting, whatever. Do you see do you see yourself? Where do you see yourself after competing? Like, where do you see your career going, or what direction are you taking it? And
that's something that I'm at that point in my life right now where I've put a lot of thought into that. Coaching is something that I feel is very rewarding to me. Just being able to take the knowledge that I've accumulated from my experiences, competing at the levels that I have, and being able to pass that knowledge on. Because nowadays with social media, with the internet, there's so much regurgitated bullshit out there that it's so hard for anyone to get like a solid grasp on what it is that they're trying to learn, because there's so many opposing viewpoints, especially when it comes to like things like nutrition, keto. You'll have people that argue opposite ends, and they're making valid points, but to the person who's just trying to get started in this, a lot of this is just overwhelming.
I agree with it. Yeah, that's 100%.
Yeah.
And then with coaching too, I do want to know. No, I might just want to I want to pump you up a little bit. Your student athletes. Now, we're not going to go any form of detail there, but your student athletes, the progressions they make, and some of the athletes that you've coached, and where they're going now, I think that's phenomenal. I think coaching is something that you're amazing at. By the way, I do want to say that because no problem, brother. But that's one of those things, because it's with his student athletes. It blows my mind, because some of the student athletes he's coached are on teams. I've seen them in sport. And we are in a small town, and it's amazing to see what he's able to do with these young kids who, especially. Speaking of, I know what dealing with teenagers is like and how well they listen, and what you're able to do with that and get them to put in the work. To put in the work is what is the most impressive thing to me. How you get them to do that. I know that sounds strange, but again, I know what dealing with a teenager is like. And the fact that you get them there and they put in the work, they get they hit goals, and they're smashing some good weights. Becoming more athletic, all that they're becoming more explosive. I just wanted to note that, because you said you want coaching in your future, and I think that is.
I do enjoy. There's so much reward in coaching kids, because there's a lot of kids out there that have the passion. They have the passion and the dream. They have the mindset that they want to do something. And just how I said earlier about the majority of coaches just being a teacher who's taking a few extra dollars to volunteer. But that's not going to be any help to a student athlete that has dreams of playing at the collegiate level. That resource right there for them, which should be something that could serve as a stepping stone for them to get to the collegiate athletics, it's no good. And especially from the area that I'm from, there's not a lot of people. The student athletes don't have anything that helps them get to the next level. That's something that I committed to, or I said that I wanted to do when I came back home about a year and a half ago, was work with the athletes and give them the opportunity to learn actual methods of training. And that's the cool thing with athletes, is because their bodies are so underdeveloped that when you apply actual methods and you can apply consistency over a period of time, it's not that difficult to yield drastic results. And every single athlete that I've worked with right now since I've started working with athletes one-on-one in person, every single person has added 100 pounds to their squat, at least. Every single person. And that's a real statistic.
Yeah, and it's not like grown ups, grown ass men and women. These are young athletes, teenage athletes that are able to hit these progressions. Of course, there's noob gains and whatnot, but the fact that they're actually putting in enough work to even get to that point, meaning they're sticking with it long enough to start hitting those numbers, is something that you're blowing it out of the water at, and
thanks. And
obviously, this is our hometown, so seeing our hometown athletes doing well, I think you are the best, most equipped human to get them to that level and get them, so they can go hit their D1 goals,
Well, a lot of that too comes from just the experiences of walking that walk. So it's like all these kids, if you're a junior, a senior, and you're thinking about competing at the next level, it's difficult for a parent even to understand that recruiting process, because the recruiting process on the college end of the side to these coaches, every single year they're dealing with the same types of parents, the same type of curiosities, the same questions. Is this the right fit for my son or daughter? Do the scholarships, all the things that apply. It's a business to the coaches. Coaches know what to say, how to tell your parents, and what they want, they will get. But if you've never had any prior experience to that, it's so easy to become overwhelmed and then just get just pass by in the recruiting process and miss out on opportunities to play at the next level.
So here's a question. So now that I think it was basketball that college athletes can now monetize their images. How do you see that changing? Like, or how do you see that affecting high school sports that their college students are not going to be able to monetize?
They are able to, so they're able to make money from playing in college, is what you're saying?
I think it was basketball that wouldn't put it through.
I thought it was California that I heard that too.
I thought football.
And then football is seriously talking about it, and some divisions want to do it, some divisions don't want to do it. But how do you see that affecting it, like the high school level, if immediately at college is where they can go ahead and start making money, like in the sport?
That's an interesting one, just because it's never been. So the idea of that, I think that it would open up opportunities, just because nowadays, college football is an economy in itself. The amount of money that is being brought in from, we're just a couple cartwheels away from Penn State University, and we see the effects that it has on the community, on the school, what it does, the money, and the alumni. That's, there's so much money funneled in through Division I, top tier collegiate athletics. But to be able to open that up and allow the kids, I guess it comes with good and bad. Like, do you think a college kid should he be rich? Should he have that kind of power? Is the education alone? Some people will argue that that's the money itself, a free education. But obviously that would be the people who are trying to put more money into their pockets and less into it.
I don't know the statistics on how many of those college athletes go on to pros or how many actually go on to finish their degrees, but I got to imagine being able to make money in these 4 years, even if college is useless to you, you can save up something and maybe open a garage or maybe pursue other avenues that, I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting because
I think a lot
maybe more parents are going to encourage kids when you can actually make good money in 4 years, because there's way more college players than NFL players.
I feel like it'll take away from the education process. It'll take away from a student's education. Sure.
Hasn't it already though? Or what do you think, as someone who's closer to the
Talking
ground?
about athletics in general.
Like if you go to
Athletics, as someone who's participating in them as a high-level college athlete, like the education.
From playing at a high level, I see that when you play at a high level in collegiate athletics, the way that practices and the days are structured, it's almost like there are team study meetings. Like they make sure that you are on top of that. And a lot of times the athletes have a higher percentage of, what would you call that, graduating or than not.
Oh, well, that's an interesting one.
I mean, that's subjective from school to school, from area to area, whatever.
Yeah.
That can change too. But I don't think that athletics itself steals, because it gives you structure and it forces you, there's someone looking over top of you, compared to the student who doesn't play athletics, goes from living at home with his mom and dad. Now he has all this freedom in school. There's, that's how these kids, like, they don't have the guidance and the supervision to stay on task. And that's why kids end up failing out, and no one ever knows about it until they actually fail out.
See, I want to speak from a parent's perspective. I wouldn't push my kids into doing athletics just so they can go to college and make money.
Yeah,
I would.
That's a poor reason. Yeah.
Yeah. For me personally, I don't push my kids to do athletics. I think they should, and I fully support athletics. But I
guess I didn't mean in that way. I meant that your kids balling out in high school, and instead of maybe encouraging to go one direction, that normally they will say, the family maybe said, let's encourage them to go do a law degree or something and not pursue that, to maybe you should pursue that. I don't know. I wonder if it's a tipping point where if someone's at a certain level that maybe more, I don't know, it'd be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know that too.
Yeah, I'm interested in that too. I think any good parent's going to want their kid to do what their kid wants to do, right?
So I guess this would be a good one also to kind of wrap things up on. But if you were going to try to beat Nam in one strongman event, what would you pick to tilt it most in your favor?
Atlas stones.
He could beat me in something. I know. He probably would beat me in Atlas stones.
Atlas stones would be the one.
Is that the next episode? The live showdown of the Atlas stone, Cody and Nam.
Yeah, we could do one of those.
I feel like we could do it live.
Yeah,
you could implement that into a podcast.
Absolutely.
Yeah, easily. Just.
Yeah, except I wouldn't bring any Atlas stones here for you to train on. I would wait till the day of and be like, all right, now I got to pick this 300-pound stone up.
That's salty.
And from what you know about strongman, what 3 events do you think you'd excel at?
Oh shit.
Powerlifting movements out.
What are the events? Start listing some. I'm not even.
Squat for reps. No, squat for reps.
Anything squat, I favor for sure.
Car deadlift for reps.
Deadlift sucks dick for me as it is.
It's a neutral grip deadlift though.
A deadlift still sucks though.
But it's like a trap bar deadlift.
Yeah, so people who deadlift, their trap bar deadlift is just as impressive.
How do you feel the pressing, like Viking pressing or log pressing? What do you think you do on a log? Who do you think would win a log?
Between me and Nam, right now.
Nam having never touched a log, and you having trained extensively on a log.
Oh, that's an interesting contrast. Technique versus power.
I wanted to see
that. Because that'd be a 2-1-2, because he's never ever touched a log. So that'd be pure strength and no technique versus still a shitload of strength, but then a lot of technique.
It would be...
Is this like where we compare reps, or are we looking for a 1-rep max?
1-rep max log.
I think Nam could...
What's your 1-rep max?
250. And I just barely missed 260.
250 log.
Justin, how close was my 260?
He says that like I do 257.
He got like that last 10 pounds. Now the thing about a log is it is so awkward compared to.
No.
I would say of everything strongman, Atlas stones and log press are the 2 that familiarity matters the most. Like I've seen some really strong dudes do nothing on a log. And same thing with an Atlas stone.
I can 100% vouch for the Atlas stone thing.
I believe that because I think I've tried to pick up Atlas stones before, and I'm like,
They're so fucking.
They feel like they're glued to the ground.
whether it be technique or just not being familiar with that type of movement and applying pressure and strength from like that position, it was just so unorthodox.
Right, I think Nom can beat me at log. Right now, I think Nom can beat me at log.
I think I can take low, not Atlas stone. I don't know.
And Atlas stone, I think if he when he gets to have his hands on Atlas stones for 3 weeks, he'll crush me at Atlas stones too. Nom's just better.
He just flashed 2 fingers. Was that 2 days?
2 weeks,
I
probably.
said 2 weeks, but I don't know. 2 days, whatever.
I think if he gets his hands on Atlas stones, he'd be good at that. I think I could push him in Atlas stones. You and I'd be close with Atlas stones, I feel. That part but
He's like, I got you at Atlas.
log, I think he beats me at log just because he would beat me at log. Because you haven't ever had press of what?
What's your strict press? So with no technique, your bottleneck would probably just be your strict press. If you don't know anything about a log, I would say your strict press would be your bottleneck. Like, you're not going to do less than that.
It won't be less than my strict press?
I don't see it being less than your strict press.
At 315, I think, for like 6 or 8.
Yeah.
5 or 6.
He beats me at log. Just
Yeah.
with that. And I think
It was ugly, though. My body was like convulsing.
I think he beat me at log pretty quick. And Atlas stones, I think I could push.
Yeah, it would be interesting if you guys are ever up to it to just see where someone with the strength but has no idea of how to use it, how fast your weights go up. Because I'm pretty sure like you would pick it up like in one day, like your very first stone, you probably slept at like 200.
Would be like an interesting YouTube series, like something like that.
Yep.
Number 11. Number 11 powerlifter.
You compete, and he gets 1 hour of training on an implement, and then you can see, and then you compete against him.
He would beat me then.
It'll be fun to watch. I gotta say, like,
We can hype up a competition.
I would do it.
Might as well.
you're like, I'd lose. I'd do it, but I'd lose.
No, I'm not okay with losing to other people.
That'd be cool content.
And I wouldn't be okay with losing to Nom for any extended amount of time. 1 time, I'd be like, okay, I accept it. 2 times, I'd be like, okay, it's time to fix this. 3 times, I'd be like, wow.
Why haven't you guys done that yet? You guys should have had like an action, like a lifting session almost.
October 18th, right?
We're thinking of doing a Discord competition.
Okay, not thinking, Justin. October 18th.
Yes,
$5
yes.
entry? $5 entry?
Free entry, man.
Free.
Just how my mind works. Just trying to monetize it.
Money, man.
That'd be kind of badass.
Yeah. Nathan is prepping along with me for that, by the way, Justin. So
We haven't picked the events yet. There's got to be a log. There's got to be a stone. There's got to be a deadlift.
I thought I was going against your buddy for the log.
You're going against him for the first one to hit 270.
I thought it was 300.
Oh, you can go to 300. Neither of you hit 270 yet, though.
300. I thought it was 300.
Oh, you guys can go 300. That's fine. I was saying, do you think you can hit 300 by then?
I don't think.
You fell 260, right? So you're
What's that, 3 months? 3 months?
3 months at 50 pounds. So to add 20% onto your lift in 3 months.
Yes.
In my mind, I think family. Family is a distraction.
I have an entire.
He has a log downstairs. All he has to do is just put the kids to bed on some trumped up charges and then just go rep it out downstairs.
Easier said than done.
Go down in my basement and lift it.
All right. What is this, October? He's putting 300 up?
300 pounds overhead, October 18th. I've already added. I added 240 was my old top end with log, and I hit the 250 and barely missed my 260 within like a month.
So a lot of the big metal 12-inch logs, like which is the 12 inch is like your standard big boy, like the largest size most people offer. They're always between 90 to 100 pounds.
The one I'm getting custom made is going to weigh around 120, possibly
But
130.
you're getting like a bigger custom one, right? Or like
Yeah,
heavier duty metal.
I'm getting a 12-inch custom made log.
So somewhere around that 280 mark is basically doing 2 plates on a log. Like that 280 300 landmark is 2 plates on a big boy log.
Yeah, and
It's a good landmark to hit.
I'll get it. I'll get 300 overhead. I'll get 300 overhead, and I have my eyes set on a very specific deadlift as well. But,
666.
wow, over 660s for sure. What I got to do, I got to get over 661 pounds on my deadlift.
I assume like everyone seems to get the 666 PR. They like go 600, then 650, then 666 because you got to hit the number, and then like Juji did it. Everyone they get in that range is like, all right, this is gonna be my PR.
660 is a good pull.
That's 300. 661 is 300 kilograms even, I believe.
Oh, that's why.
300 kilograms, 661. And I will hit that. That is what's going to happen. You said you have 5 seconds.
So you're looking at doing like over that. So you're looking at like what in 3 months trying to get your dev to like 700 and your log press to like 300.
Oh, I can pull 700. I can pull 700.
In what? Finish that.
I can pull 700.
He was like, "Man, I can pull 7."
At the same place in the same gym. I feel like if you're about to see you can pull 700 right now, I feel like he'd hold you to
Nom
it.
can already pull it. He pulls it for reps.
Oh, I know he can pull it. I saw his Instagram.
You follow his Instagram?
No, I mean I just dove all through it for the last couple hours.
Not bad. Kind of legit.
Some ridiculous numbers in there. It's pretty much all. It's mostly powerlifting more than the bodybuilding pics, or at least maybe.
That's just where I've been. I don't really post throwbacks, so it's pretty much just like what current was going on in my life, and I haven't been shredded since like March, before quarantine. Right before quarantine, I was pretty shredded.
You were.
I was.
You were.
As soon as quarantine happened, I had lost my will to live. Not live, diet. Lost my will to diet. Yeah.
Just everyone being stuck inside all the time. Probably the COVID extra body weight probably hit bodybuilding pretty hard.
Well, then with the gyms being closed, that I mean, obviously that's like the number one.
A lot of physiques and beach bodies were ruined.
Oh, but the home workout videos were at an all-time surplus.
Yeah, and everyone's sold out of everything, everywhere.
They got creative. My favorite still is Larry Will's overhead pressing the couch. So you don't have weights. You just take your big ass couch and you just press it above your head.
Is that what he did?
Yeah.
Was his girlfriend that drink like the water? Was she on the couch too? What? Say that to Wheels too.
I know you.
Say it to his face.
That's great.
Was it though?
What? Oh no one was on the couch.
No. Wheels, I'll overhead press your girlfriend.
Well, you can probably overhead press her alone. You do it on the couch and her on it. So now we got to get Nom on a log, right? And then get his
log and stone. It'd be fun to watch. I'm
not opposed.
I'll go from the only and therefore strongest strongman in this gym to the second strongest strongman in the gym, but still be the only strongman.
In 5 minutes.
I don't need any labels.
Over the course of 5 minutes.
I'm just going to practice the event that happens to be in strongman.
You also got to get him to dump all of his lifts into the leaderboards and just smash them. Just take that from Nathan.
In your guys' Discord or whatever?
Yeah. I would do that, but I mean,
it's not at the top of my priority list. But
like I said, and I didn't bluff about this. Actually, I stole this from a friend, Nick. Mm-hmm. He said about keep yourself reminded on the Instagram.
About what?
See that's our leaderboard.
Okay.
That is my lock screen.
Okay.
And
So every time it pops up, you see it.
Yep.
You're reminded that, what, you're third place?
That I'm only on there for
And he
deadlift.
only's winning one thing, one category. His name's only on there once.
Yeah.
And in a category that other people posted bigger times. But the other thing is all these other ones you're so close to taking, which is...
Did you guys say your Discord is pretty big?
225 members.
What is that in the grand...
226.
Compared to other Discords?
For fitness Discords, that's about average. Then you'll have some like really big ones for like a particular person has a Discord. Like Juji, Mufu, and Tom have the biggest fitness Discord. And Martins has the biggest strongman Discord. But as far as powerlifting and strongman go, we have one of the larger ones now. So it's actually getting kind of built up nicely.
See, I feel like the majority of the population has never even heard of a Discord, like what that is. It just sounds cool. Like it almost reminds me of bodybuilding.com, how they created an interactive online platform.
Yes.
Sort of reminds me of what you guys
and then
do.
it's a lot like that. And then you just have your own community, so everyone gets to know each other, and you're always kind of posting regularly when you're doing lifts and stuff. So everyone's kind of watching each other grow.
Oh,
So you kind of get to see everyone's story and talk to them.
Yeah, the cool thing you guys got going on. You guys should try to grow that like huge. I don't know how that works.
We're trying.
Just keep doing shit like this.
Yeah. We're trying. One of the things with the event that we want to do, that's going to be hopefully a pretty decent promotion.
What is it? Can we podcast my first 900 squat?
Yes.
You want to? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Of this training cycle, not my first ever.
Fuck yeah. I'll film you every time you want to squat. You tell me, I'll be here to film.
I feel like what you guys do though, this would make cool content to have some like live footage, like people in motion.
Oh, yeah.
And shit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I really want to see someone film your first time ever touching like a log or a stone.
As long as he would consent to it.
What's competitive at the state level?
At the state level and log? No, wouldn't competitive at like a state level and log and like just the ultra heavyweight be like 340 probably in most states, unless you live in Colorado or California?
Mostly, in PA, there's the reps, because I was looking at a state qualifier for PA.
Yeah.
And log for reps, and it was like a 230 log for reps or 250. It was 250 log for reps.
And those are going for like 12, 14 reps, aren't they?
I don't.
Was it
250?
But that's really high reps though.
Yeah.
12.
Gives you 12. Without ever touching a log, you're like, I got 12 at that.
Maybe not. I might be hyping myself up. I was just thinking of standard barbell.
Yeah, because remember, if it's like a 12-inch log, that means you're holding it 12 inches in front of your body. So the center of gravity is in front of you, so you have to shift your body way back. Do you ever see the when overhead press was in the Olympics? You ever seen clips of that?
Oh,
yeah, and their backs would be bent like super far.
Was it a clean and press? Not.
It was out of the rack.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they used to just have their back would be like super bent, and the same thing with the log is you got to shift your body weight like super far back because the log is naturally going to be pushed in front of you.
Oh, so you have an arched back is what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
You basically have an arched back like you're benching when you're doing a log press. Like you're really shifting a lot of your torso backwards.
Have you ever done a traditional standing overhead barbell press? I feel like it has a similar motion.
Yeah, but you're not leaning back as far. Because you get the center of gravity is, instead of it being like right here, this is center of gravity when I'm doing a barbell press, right? When I'm doing a log press, I don't know if that comes across good, but the center of gravity, if you just take your chest and push your arm out 8 inches in front of you, that's your new center. So now you got to lean back 8 to 12 inches further to maintain the same line.
Also, though, a log press, that's a neutral grip too, isn't it?
It is.
Yep.
That's significantly different than
you can roll it up your body instead of just doing a hip thrust split jerk.
See, I don't know much about that. That would probably be where I difficult.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to see. Just someone who's like just ridiculously strong, just play with these implements for the first time and see what. The thing is, you're gonna put up such comically large numbers. It's gonna be great for all the strongmen watching. You're like, he did it for 5 minutes and he's 120 pounds above me.
That could be good hype.
And you know who has to film
When a top power lifter transitions to strongman the first time.
That'd be fun. That'd be totally dope.
Well, I could dig up Larry Wills' numbers because he showed a lot of his like first couple times ever touching an implement. I could find Larry Wills' first log if you want to see, if you want to try to beat his first log.
I get to fight Wheels. I get to fight Wheels.
You get to take on Wills for the powerlifting bodybuilder boxing match. Who touched strongman implements twice. Absolutely. Very specific category.
A very, very specific category. I love it. Love everything about it.
I would make sure that we at least got paid there.
Yeah. Well, I think this been going on now for 2 hours, so I guess we'll go ahead and wrap up. Is there any last thing you guys want to say before we wrap up?
Be good, motherfuckers.
All right, I guess we'll wrap this one up, and hopefully we'll catch you again. I really want to see you and Cody. Like, I really want to see him walk you through some strongman stuff. That'd be amazing to watch. And catch everyone next time.
It's fun to do too.
Right on.
All right. Cheers.